Alright, so hello everybody. So I want to do a video here on SSRI Discontinuation Syndrome and my experience with it, and I wanted to do something a little bit different than what I've seen so far. Seems like everybody out there in the world who has experienced this has done the same thing, which is post about it in the middle of it when they're feeling the worst and they feel like shit and they feel like it's never going to end. And I kind of made a vow to myself during the middle of when I was going through this that I would wait until I was done and feeling better and then do a video that might actually give some people some hope instead of just kind of driving them more and more crazy looking for answers. So I wanted to give my experience kind of as quickly as possible. So I was on Celexa for 7 years for anxiety and panic attacks, and I recently decided I wanted to get off of it. It's not that it stopped being effective, but I don't think it ever really did anything for me to begin with, and yet I stayed on it for 7 years, I guess because I'm stupid. But that's another story. So what happened was I decided to start weaning myself off, and I weaned over the course of about 2 weeks, which was a little over 2 weeks, which was way too quickly. I went from 20 milligrams, which I'd been on for 7 years. I went down to 10 milligrams. I stayed at that for about 7 days, and then I went from 10 milligrams down to 5 milligrams. Started to feel a little iffy at 5 milligrams, so I stayed on that for 10 days until I felt like I was kind of stabilized, and then I went down to 0. I was okay at 0 for about 3 days, and then I just felt the worst that I had ever felt in my life. Aches, muscle aches, flu-like symptoms, nausea, diarrhea, incessant dizziness that is just horrible, and then the same with everyone else. The absolute worst thing that I can imagine pretty much are the Brain Zaps that everybody is talking about. I had them at a rate of probably about 150 or 200 every day. They were all the time. They'd never stopped. It was fucking terrible. And basically they were totally incapacitating. I was out of work for 2 weeks because of them. It was just terrible, and to explain kind of my experience with it, it was like a lightning storm, inside my head, mixed with the feeling that whenever I moved my eyes suddenly, so if I darted my eyes left or right really quickly, it felt like I was at the top of one of those rides at an amusement park where they would take you up and then all of a sudden just drop you, and it was like feeling weightless, for a couple seconds. It was like that, except happening like 150 times a day or more. They happened for about a second or two, and it was really just a hopeless kind of situation because nobody knew, what the hell I was talking about. With the exception of a psychiatrist who I talked to, who I work in a psych hospital, so I talked to a psychiatrist there about it, and he gave me some reassurance, but still couldn't give me an exact timeline of how long it was going to take before I started feeling better. So what I ended up doing was going through all these message boards, forums, like I'm sure you're doing right now, going on YouTube, going on Yahoo Answers, going on any forum that had anything to do with Celexa Withdrawal or SSRI Discontinuation Syndrome. I became a professional in it in 2 or 3 days, as I'm sure all of you have. And everyone was having the same story. I'm feeling terrible. I don't know what I'm going to do. How long does this last? Is this permanent? Am I, going to die? All these kind of the same questions. And what I found, really fascinating was that nobody, and literally nobody, had given an after-the-fact, kind of recap of their experience. So I said to myself that I would do that. So this is that. So kind of what to expect is days 1 through 3, you're going to feel of being totally at 0 milligrams. You're going to feel pretty much okay. You're not going to feel terrible. kind of dizzy, kind of woozy. Then around day 3 or 4, you're going to start to get the Brain Zaps, and they absolutely suck, and they're all the time, and they pretty much are going to stay bad, unfortunately. For me anyway, it was for about a solid 5, 6, 7 days of they were all the time happening. Couldn't get, just couldn't get a moment's rest from them. Every time I moved my eyes, it was brain zap, brain zap, brain zap, vertigo, dizziness, achiness, flu-like symptoms, nausea, diarrhea, all of this stuff happening all the time. If you can get out of work, definitely do. Like I said, I was out for 2 weeks. So that goes on for about a week, and it sucks. Then going into week 2, for me, the symptoms, I started tracking kind of the symptoms after day 3 in a journal, and I noticed around about day 7 that they started to get a little bit better. I woke up, it would be, at first I was measuring it and like, well, how long can I go from waking up before I have my first brain zap? I was really excited because one day I woke up and I went 14 minutes without having a brain zap, and that was a big victory. And then of course, the rest of the day was full of brain zaps. But slowly and surely they kind of went down from 150 brain zaps a day to maybe 100 to maybe 75 to 50, and then down and so on. But you do start to notice some improvement after about the first week. After the second week is over, I was okay to go back to work. I was not 100%, not even close. I was maybe at about 70%, but I couldn't miss any more work, so I was wandering around work, still having a lot of brain zaps, but they were better. They were getting better and better. That continued up until about 3 days ago, and this is now, I think, day 30 of being completely off of the medication. So you have your acute phase as days 1 through 7, your kind of semi-acute days as days 8 through 14, and then you get the gradual reduction in symptoms down to 0 over days 14 to 30, or 14 to maybe 25. That's not to say that I'm 100% right now, but I am, totally, back to work. I don't fear having the brain whooshes or the brain zaps. I don't fear that. I know I can look around and I'm not going to have them. And it's, I know that I'm over it. And as things get better, I know that's hard to sound like, 30 days, oh my God, that's terrible when you're at day 4. But once you start feeling better, you start to get this psychological change where you start to feel like, okay, well, I was better today, I'm going to get a little better tomorrow, and I'm going to get a little better tomorrow. And then you start to notice that the better days keep coming, and the whooshes get, I've been calling them whooshes, but the brain zaps, they get, fewer and fewer as they go, and it's a lot more tolerable after the second week is pretty much over. Life is a lot easier. You don't worry about it as much. You can go out, you can do things, definitely not back to your normal self, but a lot better. Some things as far as what did I do to mitigate some of these symptoms. Unfortunately, there's not a heck of a lot that you can do. I was taking fish oil every day, so I was taking this stuff. So it's 800 milligrams of omega-3, 700 milligrams of EPA and DHA, and I was taking 4 of these a day. And I noticed that helped with the dizziness, kind of brought the anxiety level down. Did it help with the brain zaps? Not really, but it's something. And sometimes people feel like, well, I'm taking something that helps, and it's good stuff. The thing that I want to warn people against is the 5-HTP. It's not good to take 5-HTP because it works on your serotonin levels, and if it's increasing serotonin levels in a brain that is already abnormally high in serotonin due to your SSRI, you can get what's called serotonin syndrome, which you can look up, and basically serotonin syndrome can kill you, and 5-HTP is something that I can attribute to serotonin syndrome. So I'd be really careful. There's a lot of people out there saying to take 5-HTP, and it's not a good idea. So stay away from 5-HTP. I hope this is helpful. You know, anybody, feel free to message me or leave comment. So good luck, and you know, it's not, you know, a life-ruining thing. You will get better. So all right, I think that's all I have to say, and good luck.